Ready? Okay. Prior to our meeting, we have an invocation. Pastor Seth Hepner is here from Faith Lutheran Church. If you'd like to join us, please stand.
Thank you. Pray. Lord Heavenly Father, bless this meeting as the leaders are here to discuss, give discernment, and decide things beneficial for this community. Be with those in authority that we all may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. Lord, you have given us this community to live in, and we think about that unity, Lord. Provide unity between neighbors and help us learn how to better love our neighbors as ourselves. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, I am going to call the Common Council meeting of Tuesday, October 1st to order. Elissa, will you please call the roll?
Mudler.
Here.
Tortomasi.
Here.
Britton.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Holthouse. Here. Rather.
Here.
Schmid. Marone.
Here.
Phillips.
Here. And if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item on the agenda is the minutes of the council meeting from September 17th. Any additions or corrections to those minutes? Okay. Next is comments and suggestions from citizens present. We have two this evening. The first is Amber Smith. If you would please come to the microphone and state your name and your address.
Amber Smith, 709 Emmett Street, Watertown. Hello, my name is Amber Smith. I am here in part of the Watertown Main Street program. I'm here to talk about the special event permits. I attended last week's City Council meeting in regards to some changes and updates to the current application process and procedures. In regards to raising the fee for city officials to patrol events has been a huge concern of mine. I'm sure I can speak for applicants that apply for special event permits that almost all of these events are for fundraising purposes. I understand the charge for safety and protection, and I am not saying that this fee should be eliminated. However, with the percentage of the service going up every year that an event is being done, this is a huge concern of mine. Hearing the words into the thousands could be how much our fee could go up means that event we just did that volunteers worked hard for would take a $1,000 cut off our fundraising money. It is hard to grasp. Again, I'm not taking away the fact that there should be a fee, but can we make that a flat fee every year? Can we cap that fee for a certain amount? Are there different methods of protection we would be allowed to hire for our events to offset this? Events are important for our city. I am an advocate for events. I sit on the committee for every single event that is associated with the Main Street program. Our community needs and wants events, even more than we have now. What I hear over and over again is, why can't Main Street close the street down like this city? Why can't Main Street do this event like this city? We are trying to do what we can to make Watertown shine, but at times we hear no. That would require a long list of requirements from the city, or there will be such and such fees associated with this. So we don't look further into these requests, because quite frankly, it is exhausting. To be honest, sometimes I'd love to hear, we love this idea. Let's see how we can make this work. I see your request. Let's take some time to see if we have alternative options. But I want you to understand that these events you are pulling permits for, these are organizations literally planning for months for these events. Not only all the detail that goes into them, but also pulling permits, abiding by laws and regulations, marketing, and all while keeping these events sustainable. I have a fear that the events that require patrolling and fees associated with them, they will stop happening. There's a lot of risk involved with planning events. We hope that our events are successful. However, there is no guarantee. On average, the Watertown Main Street program makes $3,500 profits. If you do the math, take $1,000 off that. To be fair, not all of our events are moneymakers. They're also done for our community, to serve them, and bring activities downtown. So if fees such as patrol is involved, you could see why we don't do certain activities, as we are taking a loss. Again, we are not stating there shouldn't be fees, but can you see why certain events are not done? I'm not sure what other cities do, but I just want you to be aware of how we do things. City council members, I just ask you all to think of this when reviewing the changes to the fees/procedures associated with special event permits. Right now, the city is advocating downtown revitalization, and the ability to hold quality downtown events that are affordable to run are key for making downtown revitalization successful. I feel like implementing changes like this could essentially go against what we are trying to accomplish here. And again, I'm not saying that the fee should be eliminated, but more reasonable. I also like more working together approaches on events. Essentially, we are all in this together. We all want the same goal here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ina Trummer. If you would please step to the microphone and state your name and address. Alderman Mother, you may need to lower, I'm not quite sure.
It's my first time.
Okay, well, you'd think with all the money they had to spend, that they could have a podium up here.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Ina Trummer. I live at 807 Fieldcrest Court here in Watertown. I'm here to talk about a number of things. I haven't been able to attend for a while. I had surgery in May and was in therapy until the last week of August. So I'm sure you haven't missed me at all. Number one, the proposed tax increase. Election time. I thought we were going to get a mayor who would represent the city, the people of Watertown. She had excellent credentials, and as a woman would understand how you have to stay within a budget. This proposed tax increase is completely unnecessary. The county has decreased their tax rate by 18 cents. Waterloo's decreasing theirs by 9 cents. If they can do it, why can't this city? If you need to cut something, I'll share a few things that I think you need to do. First, get rid of subsidizing that cable company. Madison, Milwaukee both have public televisions, and they take none of the taxpayers' money. They raise money on their own, and that is what this cable company should be doing. Our former mayor, Mr. Smith, said it was needed for the church services, for the homebound. Not necessary. Regular television has every denominational search service on every Sunday morning, all through the day and evening. Local news and national news is also available. We taxpayers don't want to pay for that. Number two, quit subsidizing the taxi service. A taxi company is a business. A business should operate as such and manage it properly so that their revenue takes care of it. Other businesses do not get money from the city to keep their business going. So I don't think it's necessary for us to keep that business going. There are a few other social programs you could eliminate. Social programs should be run by the volunteers, not by paid employees. But getting back to the taxes, I simply can't afford the city anymore. Since the year 2009, my taxes have risen almost 29%. For the year 2013, it went up 10.4%. I have an ordinary 3-bedroom ranch home. The only thing that makes it different is it is completely handicap accessible. But that should have no bearing on my taxes whatsoever. You want to raise them another 4.1%. Where do you think those people on fixed incomes are going to get that money from? As it takes me 5 months now to pay my taxes, or $462 a month set aside. Now, that's impossible. First of all, you keep raising the water bill so that you tack on everything you can think of. Last year, it went up 23%. We shouldn't have to live just for our house. We should be able to have something left over once in a while to either vacation or do fun things, but we can't when you're taking it all. Now, the mayor's salary increased $700 a year for the next 3 years. The council members gave themselves an increase in their salaries so that when I averaged it out, they're making $70 an hour for being on this council. No one should get that kind of money. And they all have other jobs, so what do they care how much the taxes are? Since 1913, my Social Security has increased $127. That's a total of $25.40 a year. We have never had more than a 2% increase in our Social Security, yet our taxes are always at least 4% or more. I thought when we had a new administration and some new council members, you would hold the line on your spending, but it's the same old, same old. Whenever anyone wants money, you give it to them with no questions asked. We have not had a council that has represented the people in the last several years. There are actually a do-nothing council, except the only thing you're good for is to sit up here and say yes to everything that wants to be spent. I don't ever hear anyone at any of the council meetings that I have attended, and I've attended a lot of them, as you know, and no one ever says no. Or maybe we should look into it a little more. I'm in contact with my alderman regularly, and I voice my concerns, but it's to no avail. He's the same as the rest of you. Not any one of you here are representing your constituents. But that's what you were put on this council for, to represent the citizens as a whole, not any one individual. All of you, including the mayor, need to start balancing the budget. A household cannot spend more than they're taking in, and the city needs to do the same instead of putting us further and further and further in debt. Now, if this increase goes through, I'm going to fight it with everything I can. I'll rally the people if I have to. I don't know how I'm going to do it because they're the most apathetic people that there are in the city. I went to the school board, and I've told them the same thing, because that's what you said to me last year. Why don't I go to the school board because of what they're reading? I did go to the school board, and I told them the same thing. We were promised a no increase in taxes on the spending if we passed that referendum. I didn't vote for it. However, after the referendum was passed, they immediately tacked on a 7.5% tax rate to the city budget. This was misrepresentation at the highest level. And I have the advice of an attorney who said the same. However, I could do nothing about it alone because I needed the backing of the people. And I can't get the backing of the people because most of the time none of them ever show up at this council to disagree with anything. They'll meet me on the street and say, oh, well, that was right. We sure agree with you. But do they ever show up and voice their concern, or do they ever call their alderman and ask them to look into it or to do anything about it? No. So on the tax thing, I think you need to sit back. I think you need to think it over, and I think you need to do some really restructuring. Number 3, handing out liquor licenses. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the town has a liquor license. Now Walgreens has one. Walgreens is a pharmacy, and they shouldn't have any need for a liquor license. If I want liquor, I'll go to the liquor store. If I want groceries, I'll go to the grocery store. If I want gas, I'll go to the gas station. If I want medications or anything, I'll go to the pharmacy. I don't go there to buy my liquor. Not that I ever do buy it, very much of it anyway. So I think you need to start thinking about how many of those you're handing out. We're losing every valuable business we have here in Watertown. We have no more department stores. When I moved to Watertown, we had Fisher's, Klein's, Kohl's, Shopko, and several clothing stores. Now we have none. We used to have some nice restaurants. Now we only have 2. All the rest of them are fast food chains that I don't think we need to get any more in, but it doesn't seem to make any difference. And what you're doing is giving the money away to get those kind of people away. Wake up. Wake up, every one of you here. Make this city something that you could be proud to be a part of. Main Street still is nothing. Go and look at some cities that have improved their economy 100%. An example is Cedarburg, West Bend, Menominee Falls, and others I could mention. We don't need more apartment buildings. We're already at a bedroom community now. Quit giving the money away to those developers. I've had my say. I know it's like talking to the walls here. It all goes on deaf ears. But that will not keep me from coming and speaking out. I would like to see us get to a point where we aren't the laughing stock of other cities. If I had my way, and I was able to, I would have you all arrested, including the school board, for a criminal offense, because what you're doing to the citizens of Watertown is definitely a crime. And I just still want to, again, thank the only 2 departments that I feel are officially, that are run the way they should be and are a very, very special part of this city. And that's the police department and the fire department. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
you will be hearing from me again.
Thank you, Ina. All right. Next on the agenda is committee reports. We have the Finance Committee of September 23rd and the Plan Commission of September 23rd. Any comments on those minutes? Okay. Next is communications and recommendations. We have some really wonderful awards to provide this evening, and that is the presentation of Public Safety Heroic Citizen Awards. Chief?
I'd like to call up Dennis Fiedler, Jason Grave, Jessica Keel, Ryan Keel. One of the things that we have the honor of doing from time to time is recognizing citizens that have done some outstanding things. And tonight we'd like to do a presentation of Public Safety Heroic Citizen Award. This award recognizes individuals who voluntarily risk their own lives while performing aid to save the life or property of another. Heroes are people who transform compassion, which is a personal virtue, into a heroic action, which is a civic virtue. In doing so, they put their best selves forward to service to the community. Arthur Ashe stated that true heroism is remarkably sober, very undramatic. It is not an urge to surpass others at whatever the cost, but the urge to serve others at whatever the cost. Because of this urge to serve others, we are gathered this evening to honor 4 individuals who performed heroic actions to help another. This happened on the evening of July 27, 2019, when these individuals saw that there was a fire at a residence on the east side of Watertown. Instead of passing by the incident, they stopped, helped the occupants inside, and kept the fire under control until help had arrived. It is tonight we would like to present the Public Safety Heroic Award to Dennis Fiedler. Thank you. Jason Brave. Thank you. We got Jessica Keel. And Ryan Keel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to take a picture of you guys.
a round. Hold on. You guys. This is the last time you're going to show up to a meeting, huh? I was like, I can try, but the Zoom credit. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming, everyone. Chief? Now on to something a little less exciting, the accounts payable.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Motion by Kilps,
I'll second.
seconded by Larson. Any question on the accounts? Elissa?
Kilps. Aye. Mudler.
Aye.
Quartermassy.
Aye.
Britton.
Abstain.
Larson.
Aye.
Holthouse.
Aye.
Rather.
Aye.
Marone.
Aye.
Next, we have reports and miscellaneous business. We have the Cable TV Regulatory Board of September 10th, the Employee Advisory Committee of July 9th, the Health Board of August 22nd, Main Street Program of August 21st, Park Recreation and Forestry Commission of September 9th, the payroll summaries from September 11th to 24th, the Redevelopment Authority of September 18th, and the Site Plan Review Committee of September 23rd. Any questions or comments on any of these? Sure.
Mayor, the RDA report, item 11, correction to it says the board will let the chosen demolition contractor take care of any recycling of materials. That should say, we'll wait till a demolition contractor is chosen and decide what to do with materials.
Oh. Okay. I had emailed Kristen as well about that particular item, so we'll make sure that we get that reflected. I had asked her a similar question. Thank you. Any other comments on the minutes? Okay. Ordinances this evening. Our first is ordinance 19-20. This is to repeal and amend Article 2, Section 428-7 through 428-10, special event license of Chapter 428, public events. And this is here from me and the licensing board on the second reading.
I'll move for ordinance 1920 at second reading.
Motion by Rather, seconded by Marone. Comments?
I'll comment.
It's like, I put my pen down, so. Alderman Larson.
All right, and bear with me, I'm going to go through my logic. I'm not in support of it. I did notice something, I guess I'll point out, that may be a typo. On item C, under exemptions, it says the requirement under subsection C shall not apply, so it refers back to itself. I'm thinking maybe that's supposed to be B, or another letter, I'm not sure which. And there's a lot of things in here that I like. I think it's written very well, and it seems to cover everything that you might want to cover in this type of an ordinance. And comparing it to the original ordinance, which was one page for all 4 sections, it's much more extensive. When I look at the whereases on this, that's kind of where I got hung up. I mean, some of the details I had differences with, but there's some assumptions here. When we look at the original ordinance, and it says the purpose is to require review and approval of any outside public event. On this one, we say the purpose is to provide reasonable restrictions. So right away, we're becoming more restrictive, or the tone is restrictive. One of the most common complaints I get from people in the community that are involved in business or other things is that we're too restrictive. And when we do things that are less restrictive, I think we promote things. When we look at the whereases, it says that the Common Council having reviewed the code, which I did, pertaining to special events, and having experienced issues with some special events related to health, safety, and expenditure, I could not find that information. I'm not sure what the issues are that we experienced, so that that part I don't get. And it says expenditure of many city resources without compensation. Compensation comes in a lot of different forms, and I think the resident that spoke about the value of having these events, that is a form of compensation. When we have events, if it attracts the people from outside the community, we collect a room tax. If we look at that room tax, and a portion of that goes to tourism, and we retain a portion, in 2019, we'll have about, it's a little over $9,000, somewhere between $9,000 and $10,000 in excess in that account. Those room tax dollars are the types of things that we would use to cover expenses for events and other things. So it's not like we're not getting compensated in some way. It does promote tourism, and it's a hard thing to measure, but it does bring business to our community when we have these events. People spend money in other ways. When we look at the second whereas, it says the Common Council having found and determined that further regulation in special events and the large crowds attracted to same is necessary. I can't really come to grips with that. I feel like what we've had in place has been effective, and I think it's less restrictive, and I'm always going to tend to the least restrictive policy as long as it's not creating some other problem. So I think the policy that we have has been working, and I don't see a problem that we're trying to solve, I guess. And that's part of the way I approach things is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? What are possible solutions? And what is the final solution? So I can't get a clear picture of a problem that we're trying to solve. I did look at some of the expenses. It looks like, maybe $800 to $2,000 in expenses that weren't recovered, maybe from the streets department. But that would certainly be covered by the excess in the tourism account. The room tax account it's projected to be, I think, $12,000 next year, and projected to be around $9,100 this year. So it's not like the benefit from having these events and attracting people to our city is costing us more than maybe what the expense is. And then the final whereas is having considered the nature and purpose of such special events, and it talks about exemptions for nonprofits and religious organizations. I don't have a problem with that. It's more about the restrictive nature. If the costs were an issue, and if I was going to amend it anywhere, I would think there may be, the original ordinance established a cost, and that was to cover any police officers that were used, up to 3 officers, and that was charged directly. And I think that's a reasonable charge. This ordinance eliminates that and goes to a flat charge and then a fee that'll be determined later in the fee structure. Right now, all I could find was a $10 fee, a picnic fee, and if you're going to get a liquor license, there was a $10 a day temporary Class B liquor license. There's a $25 fee if you're going to have music. That was an annual fee. So I don't see, it seems like the fees that we have cover the basic costs of doing the paperwork and then also the police action. If there's other costs that are related to maintaining the parks and the events, I think those are covered by the excess in the tourism, the room tax account. So we want to promote, I think, events in our city at all costs. It's what makes a city vibrant is the number of events, and tourism relies on it, the chamber does, and anything that we do that makes it more difficult for them, I think, is going to be against the the idea of making the city stronger. So those are my comments, and
Thank you.
I won't support it.
I just wanted to point out before I pass the floor to the next alderperson, we did make in the version you have, updates to reflect the 45-day, we cut that to 21 days, so that is reflected in this version. That was some comments from last time. And then we did remove the fee from this ordinance because a few years ago, we made an effort to move all the fees to one fee schedule so that we weren't continually updating ordinances. So that's where that fee is, will need to come back before you all and be considered. The fee currently sits at $25. That was provided in the information in
And
your
I
packet.
couldn't find that in the
Yep,
fees schedule.
that's in the, nope, it's in the, remember I said, the reason that we're here and the reason this came up was because we had conflicting guidance. We have the one-page ordinance, which you alluded to, and then we had a multi-page procedure that got passed via resolution. So that was the problem that we were looking to address, is we needed to rectify not having two procedures out there, because what you see in this built-out newer version of the ordinance is not new, largely. It's an adaptation of what was in the policy, which should have been provided to you all in your packets. It was with the handwritten note on the top. I don't, so what we did is we basically took these two and melded them into one and made some removals of things that would have made it a little bit more restrictive, and then made the additions which we spoke about last time. So I just wanted to make sure that I pointed out to you, because I was supposed to and forgot to before I turned it over to Alderman Larson, but those changes that we kind of discussed that seemed collective last week or last meeting were reflected here. Before we move on to the next person, though, I am going to keep a short list. We do need to update from C to B. You were correct on that. So I'll keep a list of what else comes up, and then I think it may be most efficient to take the ones that seem pretty basic altogether rather than
Just a
separate.
point of order,
Separate motions.
will we have to vote on an amendment to that, since we had a first reading and now
No.
we've amended it?
Nope.
On second reading?
So this item is being considered as the amended version of the one we read last week, or last meeting. I don't know why I keep saying that.
Okay.
Yep, I checked on that before the
Okay.
meeting. Yep. So,
I have some general comments.
sure, Alderman Mudler.
I was not able to attend the first reading, but I watched the city council meeting back, and it was very informative. I'm really glad I was able to do that, provided by our community cable service. I am personally involved in several of these fundraising activities that require permits. One group that I'm involved with just put on, excuse me, at the park about a month and a half, 2 months ago, called Rock the River. And, it was just a goodwill thing. It wasn't a fundraiser. We weren't raising money for anybody. We just wanted to have some fun, listen to some music by the river, and enjoy our neighbors. We had food there. We had beverage there. We had band there. And to our best count, we had possibly 100, 150 people there. Maybe some of you in this room attended. And it was a ton of fun. That particular event, in my mind, we didn't have to utilize any city resources. However, we would have to take out an insurance policy because we were serving alcohol. Where I feel is a gray area is the head count, because we couldn't get a head count. And if we were to come and apply for this to pull off that event, we wouldn't have been able to give a head count. It could have been 300 people. It could have been 50. We just really didn't have any idea. So if we took alcohol out of the equation, we'd be coming and we'd be getting $250 insurance policy on that $1 million, and we don't have a head count. So that's a little bit of a concern of mine, just from a social event that is in good nature, it's full of good people, and we're doing something positive for the city. On the flip side, I've been involved with several 5K, 8K, 10K, half marathon fundraisers where we are raising money for charity. And I know for a fact that one that I was involved with when I served on the board for March to November, they were required to take out a $1 million umbrella insurance policy, and it cost $250. And I was told that that was less than it would have been had there been alcohol involved. So quite honestly, I am so on the fence with this because I look at it and say, you know what, these are good-natured events. They're full of good people with good intentions. People aren't coming and running 5Ks to cast lawsuits because they might trip and fall and scrape their knee. I have a hard time pulling that money away from charities that this money is being raised for. Now, on the flip side, I totally understand covering our butts. And there was something that City Attorney said in the last meeting that really struck me because it was a gray area for me. This whole indemnification thing. You know, so you check a box that says, you know, you're not going to hold the city liable. And any 5K fundraiser that you sign up for, you check the same box that says, I'm not going to hold the event liable in case I break my leg on your trail run. But there are some greedy people out there. And I'd almost like you to reread that or restate that for us, because to me that might be a tipping point. Because if that happens to that wrong person and that indemnification box doesn't hold up, we could be on the hook. And it only takes one. And it might not have happened yet, but it doesn't mean it won't. And if I have to take $250 out of my $4,000 donation to JDRF because my butt's protected and the city's protected, it's probably a good insurance policy to have. So I'm weighing all this stuff. I'm hearing it. I'm understanding it. I have the benefit of being a guy that's run a ton of these events. And I don't want to give any more money than I have to. Pay out, that is. But I'm really thinking that in terms of this insurance policy, it's probably a good idea. And we have some very smart people telling us it's a good idea. And in terms of the fee structure, first year, second year, third year, you know, I'm actually okay with that too. I'm actually okay with that too. I have a part of a trail run out at Brancourt Park. And the snow thawed, and it was May. The events run in July. And we were out on the trails in Brancourt, and there were several trees down blocking our path. And first thing I thought to myself is, I'm just going to go home and get my chainsaw. I'll just take care of this on my own. But then I was talked into a different direction, and we called the Park and Rec, and they took time. They came out, and they knocked these trees down for us. Probably took them 2-3 hours, and they did it for us. Now, they probably would have had to do that at some point in time down the road, but for that particular situation, they did it for us. So I actually don't mind saying, all right, you know what? I'm going to pull my weight here. And wherever I would have been, that would have actually been, you know, second, third, fourth year of the event. And if that cost $150, I'll pay my percentage and just be very, very thankful for the service. So as I'm thinking through this, and I watched the city council meeting back on our cable TV station, actually it's Facebook Live shown on our webpage. And being someone that runs these events and just understanding both sides of the coin, I'm liking more and more the direction that this is going. So those are the comments that I wanted to make.
Thank you. Alderman Ritten.
Last meeting, I voted for this ordinance as it was written with the idea that we're going to make a couple amendments, which we did, about the timing structure and so forth. Since that meeting, I've been contacted by at least 3 or 4 different individuals speaking about Section G, the insurance, requiring insurance for groups larger than 150 people or having alcohol. The previous ordinance, I believe, stated the city reserves the right to require that. Didn't make it a requirement, but once the city looked at the event and thought, maybe we want to require that for this. 3 or 4 people that spoke to me were all against the requirement for the insurance. Just a little bit of research I did this afternoon about this. Online, I got a quote for like $300 for like a 1-day wine tasting or a 3-day softball tournament that would have over 150 people. Each quote was about $300. And I couldn't even get that quote from my State Farm agent. He had to go to some special broker. Didn't seem that easy to get. Anyway, the more I thought about this and the more I heard from folks in the city, I thought we could probably do without the insurance requirement, or at least change it to the way it was, reserve the right to require.
Okay. Alderman Tortomasi.
I also had phone calls about the insurance, and some people who ran baseball and softball tournaments felt that they're at the point of their cost structure right now to rent the facility, to get concession stands. They're at the point that they're losing participants because the cost to enter these tournaments has gone up and up through the years. The insurance adder to this would raise that cost, and we'd be affecting those events. A lot of these smaller events aren't going to be able to afford any kind of insurance. And all these events that we have throughout the city, all different things, add to the quality of life in this city. And that's what we're selling here to people who want to come in here, businesses, people who want to move in, is the quality of life in this city. And we certainly don't want to detract from that. So rather than voting no for this ordinance, I would like to make an amendment to send it back to the licensing board to review this again before it comes back to the council. If I can get a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
And that's a motion to refer. That's a motion to refer back to committee, right?
Refer back to the committee.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to refer back to the licensing board. Comments on that? Alderman Newton.
Instead of referring back to committee, why don't we make an amendment here and now to strike the insurance requirement and leave it as it was. City reserves the right to require insurance upon review. I'd just like to see this move forward. Instead, if it goes back to committee, it's just going to get another month. They might even forget about it.
Alderman Marone.
I was just going to say, too, that, the insurance requirement out there, that not only protects the city, protects the group that's putting the event on, I would think. And I've gotten, this isn't about the amendments.
You can
but
vote?
it's-
Okay. I'm still not good at this stuff. Sorry.
Okay.
We need to take a vote on, go ahead.
Yes. so
Sorry,
motion
Alderman
to
Marone,
refer-
Alderman Marone, I'm sorry
the
about that.
Motion to refer, sorry, has to be taken care of first. So there's a motion and a second on that. So the discussion would be related just to the motion to refer. After that, if that passes, then it's referred. If it doesn't pass, then you can continue discussion on the parent motion, or the parent discussion, which is the overall ordinance.
So if Alderman Marone speaks to the insurance requirement, is that not the
Well,
motion?
We're talking, yeah, because Alderperson Tortomasi talked about the motion to refer, or made the motion to refer, it was seconded by Alderperson Larson, I believe. We have to deal with that first, and then we can deal with the parent motion.
I'll comment on the referral. I mean, I think there is value in looking at it overall, and that's best done in committee. We're always, there's a lot of little things about this that I think need attention. It's not just that. If it's in committee, I think it can be reworked and massaged. And I don't think there's any reason that we have to rush this through. If it goes to committee and it takes time and it comes back in a new form, and we vote on it again, I would rather get it right than have something that's restrictive and that's going to hurt the city in some way. We want to encourage these events, and if it goes back to committee, I don't see why. If we want to sit here and work out the language of that, I would also, there's other amendments that could be made too. So rather than sit here and go through item by item and amend, it may be better to go back to committee. So I'd support that.
So any other comments on the motion to go back to committee? Alderman Morone.
Yes, and I was just going to state that I want to look into the licensing and the insurance part a little bit closer. I don't know that we are at a position tonight to say, let's just get rid of it, or let's have it in. So I'm going to vote for that amendment, send it back to committee. We can do some research on the insurance item, and we can go from there.
And we have an ordinance in place. It's not like we stop functioning if it's not there. There's already something in place that's been working for quite a while.
Any other comments? I hope you all attend the licensing board. We sure didn't get a lot of feedback between these meetings. So so that we had a motion first by Alderman Tortomasi and a second by Larson. Elissa.
Tortomasi?
Aye.
Britton?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Holthouse?
Aye.
Rather?
Aye.
Morone?
Aye.
Hills?
Aye.
Ludler?
Aye.
All right. Next item on the agenda is ordinance 19-21. This is to amend a portion of section 500-3C. Traffic stop signs shall be placed at the following locations. Southwest corner of Evergreen Drive. Evergreen Drive shall stop for Welsh Road. This is here from Alderman Rather and Public Safety on the first reading.
I'll move for 1921 on its first reading.
Motion by Rather, seconded by, who was that? Mudler? Alderman Mudler. Any comments on this one?
I just wanted to make a comment that there's a fair amount of residents on this street, and the stop sign here will make that street in compliance with all the remaining streets that approach Walsh Road at that point, so.
This was someone that reached out after an event we held, so I'm glad to see that the committee considered it and put this forward. Any other comments on this one? Elissa?
Rather?
Aye.
Morone?
Aye.
Hills?
Aye.
Ludler?
Aye.
Tortomasi?
Aye.
Britton?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Holthouse?
Aye.
Next is ordinance 19-22. This is to repeal section 500-6, paren B, paren 2, parking limitations, 2 spaces on North 10th Street. Again, this is here from Alderman Morone and Public Safety on the first reading. Motion by,
1922.
thank you. Motion by Mudler, seconded by Ritten. Comments?
I'll just
Sure.
make a general comment here. There's a church in the area, they're doing some construction, and they have, the construction on the church facility is going to block the street where they have limited parking for the church. I think these are handicap spots, and they just asked to move them to another street so their churchgoers can have a handicap spot, if I'm correct on that, Tim?
If I can add in,
Sure.
correct. The remodeling will basically change their more main entrance from the 10th Street side to the 9th Street side. So again, it kind of goes hand in hand with the next ordinance, again, to allow them to move those handicap parking spots around.
Very good. Anyone else? Elissa?
Mudler?
Aye.
Tortomasi?
Aye.
Britton?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Holthouse?
Aye.
Rather?
Aye.
Morone?
Aye.
Hills?
Aye.
Next is ordinance 19-23. This is to create section 500-6, paren B, paren 2, parking limitations, 2 spaces on North 9th Street. This is here from Alderman Morone and Public Safety on the first reading.
I move for 923 on first
Thank
reading.
you. Motion by Morone, motion by Rather, seconded by
That's okay.
Morone.
I'll forgive you for that.
Shoot. Got me good. Any questions on this one? That was Rather and then Morone, sorry. Okay. Elissa?
Rather?
Aye.
Morone?
Aye.
Hills?
Aye.
Mudler?
Aye.
Tortomasi?
Aye.
Britton?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Holthouse?
Aye.
Next is resolutions. We have Exhibit 8876. This is adopting the Department of Health Services Division of Public Health Consolidated Contract for Communicable Disease and Prevention Public Health Emergency Preparedness, and this is here for me.
I'll move for Exhibit 8876.
Thank you. Motion by Rather, seconded by Marone. This is a typical contract that we've had year over year. It's again just bringing them here so that we have the authority to sign. Nothing different or new from any years past. Any questions? Yulissa? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, go for it. Yep.
Rather.
Aye.
Marone.
Aye.
Phillips.
Aye.
Mudler.
Aye.
Tortomasi.
Aye.
Britton.
Aye.
Larson.
Aye.
Holthouse.
Aye.
Next is Exhibit 8877. This is the library tax exemption for Dodge County for 2020, and this is here from me and me.
I'll move to approve.
Go ahead.
I'll do it. I'll
Motion
move
by-
to approve.
Motion by Larson, seconded by Tortomasi. We have these every year. This is basically saying that we're not going to pay a tax because we have our own library and we don't use a county one. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is Exhibit 8878. This is the library tax exemption for Jefferson County for 2020, and this is here from me.
I'll move for Exhibit 8878.
Thank you. Motion by motion by Marone. Seconded by Rather. Not my best. Same thing here. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and our last is Exhibit 8879. This is authorizing the issuance of a taxi cab license to Fast Ride LLC. This is here from me and the licensing board.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Motion by Larson, seconded by, Holthouse. Questions, comments?
You were able to receive the insurance person assigned to the vehicle, as we talked about, we tabled last meeting?
We have, so I had a conversation with this particular, with Fast Ride LLC, and we are still waiting on that component, but I communicated that with him today. So I would look for a motion contingent on that information being provided.
Yes, would that motion be, whoever made the motion, would they be amenable to that amendment?
Sure.
I forgot.
Larson and, who second? Holthouse. Is that okay? I'm sorry, I should have articulated that ahead of time. I did explain to the owner of Fast Ride LLC that it was coming back this evening, and he relayed to me that he was unable, he's out of the area this evening, so. Yes.
Okay.
This kind of concerns me a little bit because we are subsidizing our taxi service, and it is apparently the ridership has fallen a little bit this year, and I know there's been a lot of complaints about its service. Not a lot, I should say, but there have been complaints. So we're creating a competitor to our own taxi service, and I don't think you can stop private business from doing that. But I guess I want to make citizens aware that there's competition, and maybe we shouldn't be subsidizing our taxi service if there is somebody else who can do the job.
And I would agree with Alderperson Tormatolosi, but again, to let you know, we cannot restrict a private enterprise from coming in and running a business. The shared ride, which is shared through the federal, state, and the city, again, if you look at the prices, the rates they put out are basically higher than the shared ride prices. Again, so that competition will, I think, come out in the end, whether or not, whether either one is successful. Our ridership is actually up a little bit this year.
Okay.
And we've got some different personnel in place at the shared ride service. I think we've minimized complaints this year compared to last year, even though, again, we always have complaints, but I think that they've made some progress going forward, and you're absolutely correct. We cannot stop a private enterprise business from coming in.
I saw that they were, the ridership was down, but now that school started again, I think that's probably what's brought it up.
Correct. I mean, if you look at overall through the year, it's higher than what it was.
And
the
we
last
hired some new employees, too, I saw, too.
Correct, and they had held off on filling those positions until they made sure that they had the requirement to need those additional drivers.
Great, thank you.
I just want to share, we say subsidize, but really it's Alderman Rather alluded to this, it is intended to be a three-part funding mechanism, federal, state, and local. That's always been a part of the calculation, and we've said subsidize for as long as I've been on the council, and I'm sure before that too. But it is a three-pronged funding mechanism. Alderman Marone.
I was just going to say, I don't see a lot of competition here between the two companies. During the day, they do charge a higher rate than our current taxi service, so most people, I think, are going to go with the more economical rate. The other thing that they do is they offer very extended hours, where our taxi service is only till a certain part in the evening, and then that's it. They're even available like at bar time, and the police department has had some good reactions from people that at bar time realize they shouldn't drive home. And now we have a taxi service that can give them that ride home at bar time. This service also provides transportation to various communities. They go down to Crick if somebody wants to go down to Coles down there. They will make trips into Madison, into Milwaukee, and all of the area cities around here. They'll provide that transportation. Right now, we don't have that. If somebody has a doctor's appointment in Madison and they don't have family or friends available to them and they can't drive, they really have no place to go. Now they will.
Thank you. Alderman Ritten.
Real quick, these folks spoke at the licensing board, and they brought several people with them to speak in favor that this was a service that was needed. Even though it does cost more, it's many times more convenient, speaking about the hours and the destinations. And they even brought in a petition, I think it had 300 signatures, saying that, yes, we want these people to be able to operate a taxi service in this city. So this was kind of a no-brainer at the community level.
To add something, I think a lot of people don't realize that we talk about the Watertown taxi service as if it's a traditional taxi service, but in fact, it's our public transportation. It's in some communities you have buses or you have railway, or you have other types of things. But when that went away in Watertown, those fundings that was always subsidized. The public transportation buses and things in the city were always subsidized by state and federal government, and to provide a service at a low cost to the residents. So it's not a traditional taxi service. We do hire somebody from the outside to manage it because we don't have that capability. But this is a completely different entity. This is a private company, just like any taxi cab would run. Even if you go to Milwaukee or Madison, they'll have a bus line running the public transportation, and then there's taxis all over. So it is competition in a way, but it's the competition in the same way that the taxi cab service would have competition with a bus in any other city.
Any other comments? Otherwise, we have a motion and a second to authorize the issuance of the taxi cab to Fast Ride LLC contingent upon the updated insurance information being provided to the clerk. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The next item on our agenda is comments and suggestions from citizens present. Seeing none. I wanted to share with those in the room, we don't do this very often, but we're doing it this evening. We're about to go into closed session, which means that if you are not sitting up here, you'll have to leave the room. We're going to be closing the doors. So I would look for a motion to go to closed session per Wisconsin Statute 19.85, paren 1, paren G, to discuss a confidential settlement regarding ongoing litigation regarding Lenius versus the City of Watertown for 213 and 215 West Main.
Make a motion.
Thank you. Motion by Kilps, seconded by Rather. Elissa?
Hiltz? Aye. Mudler?
Aye.
Bertomasi?
Aye.
Britton?
Aye.
Larson?
Aye.
Bolthouse? Aye.
Rather?
Aye.
Morone?
Aye.
Can the library board stay?
I don't care. Rose, do you care if the library board stays?
That's subject, that's your call.
I don't care if they stay.
That's the last thing. Yep.
We're
going to close session. I know, I'm heading out of there. I just wanted to make sure.
Those people.
No, we won't take too long, I know we'll go back there.
Okay.
You're doing a terrible job. Thank you.
Oh.
Absolutely. They're not,